So today, if you didn't know, you're in the Ralph J. Bunche Center for African American Studies. How did you guys hear about this event?
I saw it online at about 4 o'clock this morning.
Oh, wow.
Thanks for coming. Boy, that was a big party. The clubs usually close at 2.
I just went to my UCLA, so I was like, oh, let me see if there's any emails from professors or whatever. And then it just popped up in the corner on the events or happenings.
Oh yeah,
or
happenings.
whatever.
Yeah.
You are on the front
So I
page
was
of
like,
happenings
oh, I'll go to
today.
bed.
Yeah.
I was like, I'll go to bed and then get up and go tomorrow.
Okay, so anyway, we'd like to welcome C.A. Griffith and HLT Quan of Quad Productions. And today we're going to screen and they're here. And today we're going to screen their film Mountains That Take Wing, Angela Davis and Yuri Kochiyama, a conversation on life, struggles, and liberation. Mountains That Take Wing covers 100 years of social movement history and the ways ordinary people have done extraordinary things in the face of extreme hatred and injustice. It is based on 2 recorded interview sessions, one in 1996 and the other in 2008. The format captures the scope and depth of Kochiyama and Davis bring to the history of rights movements in the United States. I feel like I should skip. I shouldn't slap just because I'm students. Okay, so, all right, so next I'm going to introduce our filmmakers. HLT Quan, which is on my left, your right, is Associate Professor of Justice and Social Inquiry in the School of Social Transformation and an affiliate faculty in African American Studies, Asian Pacific American Studies, and Women and Gender Studies at Arizona State University. She is a political theorist and an award-winning documentary filmmaker. Her research centers on race, gender, and radical thought. Professor Quan's monograph, Growth Against Democracy, Savage Developmentalism in the Modern World, published by Lexington Press in 2012, is a critique of modern development thinking and programs, including neoliberalism and corporate globalization. She is currently conducting research on ungovernability and tools for democratic living. Is ungovernability like anarchy?
It's anarchy is a one dimension of ungovernability.
Okay, she is also collaborating, come on in, sir.
Yeah.
She's also collaborating on a project about the historical development of black capitalism in the United States with Darrell T. Thomas in Pennsylvania State University. Her writings can be found in African Identities, Social Identities, Race and Class, Meridians and Science, and the edited volumes, Race and Human Rights. She teaches undergraduate and graduate courses on social and cultural theories, theoretical perspectives on justice and utopias, community research, race, gender, and consciousness, wealth and poverty, social protests, and black movements in America. C.A. Griffith, which is on my right, is an associate professor of film production at Arizona State University in the School of Film, Dance, and Theater. She is also an award-winning filmmaker and writer. She began her career in New York's independent film community. In 1991, she became the first black woman to gain membership as a first assistant camera person in the International Association of Theatrical Stage Employees Cameramen's Union. As a director of photography, camera operator, and first assistant camera person, Griffith's early film credits include the indie feature film Juice starring Tupac Shakur and Omar Epps. Did you guys know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know about Juice.
Am I dating myself? Okay.
Are you kidding me? No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
Actually, I wasn't allowed to see it because I was too
Bro.
Really?
Okay.
It plays on VH1 all the time.
Yeah, it's always on the
Always on VH1.
It's
We
always.
didn't, anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, that's so cool.
Her film credits also include music videos and award-winning PBS and BBC documentaries. There are so many to name that I had to snip. Her award-winning mixed genre short film Border Line, Family Pictures, was adapted from her short story Family Pictures, published in The Wild Good, Lesbian Photographs and Writings on Love, published by Anchor Dome Day Press in 1996. C.A. Griffith's writing credits include the short screenplay Blues for the Sea, winner of the Martha Munoz Award of the Latino Screenplay Competition, and her publications include chapters on filming difference, actors, directors, producers, and writers on gender, race, and sexuality in film, and black feminist cultural criticism. Key works in cultural studies, as well as articles and short stories in the journals Meridians, Signs, and Cabins. So together, C.A. Griffith and H.L.T. Kwan make up Quad Productions, a nonprofit media collective focused on the research, development, and production of film and video projects that support and effect progressive social consciousness. Quad believes that communication is a human right, that aesthetics should not be sacrificed for content or budget, and strives to make films that are aesthetically beautiful as they are socially relevant. Together, they produce short and feature-length social justice themed documentaries and provide media training to progressive community organizations. Quad frequently collaborates with local, national, and international organizations and individual activists with forward-thinking action. So now I have a long list of their awards. Yeah, so the Wexner Center for the Arts, St. Claiborne Award for Best Feature Documentary, the Make a Difference Award at the ComFest in Toronto, Winter of the Audience Award for Best Feature Film at the Some Prefer Cake Lesbian Film Festival. I love that. The finalist for Best Documentary at the Mid-Atlantic Black Film Festival, and nominated for an American Library Association Notable Video Award for Adults. So you know I had to put that because I'm So the purpose of this film series, this is the third in the series, was to curate a film and discussion series. So the full title of this series is Images of Blackness, Black Women Filmmakers and the Normalization of Inequality. It's always after the colon that you really get to the meat of what it's about. So we featured filmmakers and scholars exploring the impact the relative absence of Black women visual artists has on creative and social representation. And we want to examine how continued marginalization of this group renders their stories non-existent in popular culture, and how it contributes to the reinforcement of prejudice and discrimination against Black women over time. So some of the questions that we wanted to pose is, how do films by Black women differ from films made by mainstream groups? How is marginalization related to film content and production? What motivates Black women filmmakers to continue to tell their stories despite often limited distribution and lack of financial successes? I think that should have been sources. And what are the long-term societal consequences of the omission of Black women filmmakers from the screen and of continued non-critical audience consumption? I was thinking of intersectionality, so looking at the intersection of race and gender, sexuality, and I had a whole lot of things that were also cut from the abstract, like nationality, citizenship, things like that. So those are just some things to think about as we watch the film. And so we're going to watch the entire documentary, and then we're going to talk with the filmmakers about it.
Before we get
Yes.
started, 2 questions, real quick. Professor Kwan, what do you prefer to go by?
You can call me HQ.
Oh, HQ, okay. And you're from originally?
I'm
She's from
California.
DC. Oh,
San
LA?
Francisco.
Oh, San Francisco.
There you go.
And why Quad? What does the Quad stand for?
We don't actually tell people what it stands for.
Oh, you don't? Oh.
But it has nothing to do with Quan, just in case you want to know.
Yeah, because I was going to say there's no
Yeah,
combination.
It has nothing to do with
Yeah,
Quan.
okay. So,
They just share.
but you
the
don't
same
say why Quad. It's an inside.
It's an inside.
It's an inside joke.
It's an
I'm
inside
pretty
joke.
sure if you think really hard, you'll figure it out what Quan stands for.
Actually, I thought really hard for a few weeks. So, after this, we'll get together.
Okay.
Speaking of which.
So,
Okay.
did you want to frame anything?
Oh, did you guys want to say anything
They
before?
should set it
Yeah,
up.
first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for being here and bringing us out here. Did you want me to go out there?
No.
Okay.
I don't know.
First of all, that was an incredible introduction. I'm not certain that I've ever heard the whole.
That was only
part.
I printed it.
Wow.
Wow, yeah,
It seemed like so many
each one of
pages.
you was 2 pages.
Whatever,
So,
16.5.
thank you so much for being here. We want to say that it took us almost 15 years to finish this film, and in part precisely because some of the issues that are associated with marginalization and the absence of a certain type of images and certain type of history in mainstream filmmaking, right? And the bodies that are associated with those, with the process. So I want to say that. The other thing I want to say is Cedric Robinson, who in the book Forgery of Meaning and History, right?
Forgeries of Memory and Meaning.
Forgery of Memory and Meaning, History of Early Black Film. One of the things that he points out is that racial regimes, which, you know, be it Negro or mulatto or various constructions that much of which come out of Hollywood, but in this case, the Negro, for instance, is a much older one. But these racial regimes actually, by definition, they're very unstable. They're unstable because they're not real. They serve very important functions. And I think that as women of color filmmakers, particularly I think for black filmmakers, we are tasked to incite even more instability because it's never safe for us for those things to be stable. So one of the things that we wanted to do with this film, not only to really sort of bring attention to this really incredibly rich history, particularly the history of the crossing borders of, you know, the African and Asian American community that work within the Black radical tradition, because this film is about the Black radical tradition. But also we wanted to raise the point about the power of the cultural arts. And I hope that if we succeed, I think in the conversation format, which are actually two series of interviews and not just two interviews. If we succeed, the conversation format give us the feel of being intimate and feel like a fly on the wall, because we did not direct them. We would never imagine that we could direct these two women. We made suggestions, and either they took the suggestions or not, and we worked with them. And as I said, if we succeed in any way, we hope to give you a sense of what it was like to have the privilege of sitting in a room listening to a series of conversations that are really, I think, tell us a lot about the resilience of ordinary people, but particularly these two women that struggle to make justice a reality. And I don't think that it's possible. I mean, the struggle for justice is not possible without that kind of work, including film work.
So I just, again, I mean, it took us a long time to make, and I think it's interesting that we were talking just beforehand about what a challenge it was to get Free Angela Davis and All Political Prisoners made. And if it hadn't been for, you know, Smiths writing checks for it, I mean, who knows? So there's I think even still, there's a lot of resistance around radical women of color. And so I think that that's something that...
And particularly radical black women, right?
Right,
because I mean, especially in light of the fact that Shata Shakur just recently been placed as the first woman to be on the terrorist wanted list.
Yes.
I mean, she is 70-something years old.
Yeah.
The fact that she still symbolize somehow a threat to this day, well, it's kind of laughable at one level, but at another level, you understand this fear, not all joking aside, this fear of black radicalism.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So hopefully that comes across. And thank you for being here, seriously.
Yes, thank you so
very
much. And thank you for bringing us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Oh,
we
no,
just
no.
Skyped in, but this is very special.
You look this way. I guess I'm not going to get any credit from the man.
Yes, you're in a woman's space.
Yeah, I am. And I'm loving it. So, I'll...
Continue to tell their stories despite often limited distribution, and what are the long-term societal consequences of the omission of black women filmmakers, et cetera, et cetera. So those were the kind of framing questions that I asked us to keep in mind as we were watching the film. And so as I was watching the film, I was thinking, you know, how would this story have been told if it wasn't told by, you know, women of color, or if it wasn't told from, you know, a black woman perspective? And I think it would have been told a little bit differently, provided the woman was not, you know, socially conscious and able to, you know, put together all of the pieces of the story. So that was just my opinion, and I was thinking that if anyone agrees or disagrees or is more eloquent than I am, please jump in. But I wonder what led you guys to choose Angela and Yuri for the conversation?
Well, actually, the film began as, it was supposed to be a series. This was supposed to be the
Series of
first
conversation
in the series of conversations.
between Angela and a number of different women of color.
Yeah, so we were going to do a conversation between Angela Davis, Suri Kochiyama, Angela Davis, Jordan, Angela Davis, Attila Adnan, who's a Lebanese writer, painter, and philosopher. Abby Lincoln.
I mean, we were looking at a number of cultural workers.
Jim Jordan.
Yeah. Elizabeth Martinez.
Elizabeth Martinez. So we went through this list, and we got Angela on board. HQ got Angela on board, and we looked at who would you like to have a conversation with, and we talked about why we wanted to do a conversational format. We'll get to that in a second, but she was very excited about the list. There's some people she added to it, and then so where did we want it again? We thought it would be good to start with Yuri Kochiyama, just because there's just something about her that I just found intriguing. I had seen a Ms. Magazine article with her, and she was surrounded by all of her teddy bears in her apartment in New York. And I remember that her desk that she was leaning on was an ironing table, and I knew that she, had all these kids, and that she was in the projects, and she'd done these amazing things. And I said, this is a woman that I think most people would not expect to know, and I think more people need to know about her. So getting Yuri on board was much more difficult.
Well, actually, Angela really wanted to talk to Yuri first.
Yes, she did.
I mean, off the list. I mean, that we want to make that very clear.
Absolutely.
We were interested in Yuri for a number of different reasons, but we were a little bit surprised, actually, that Angela really wanted to speak to Yuri first.
And that's the only way we could actually get Yuri on board, because literally we were both graduate students at the time. And, they didn't have Skype and all this other stuff, and we didn't have any money, so making a long distance call was very expensive. And we had to make multiple long distance calls to New York to try to convince, we didn't email, none of that stuff. So we're trying to, convince Yuri to be involved in the project, and she's just a very modest, humble woman. So she's like, oh, there must be someone much more important than me that Angela Davis wants to speak to. And that's really how we finally, after I don't know how many phone calls, got, I was like, actually, you are the person that Angela wants to speak to first. Oh, no. Yes, really. So it was a combination of all of those things. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah.
We just thought there was as you saw from the documentary, a pretty, amazing history that she has. And people said that, oh, it's because you guys are Black and Asian, that's why you did it. It's not true, but we knew that there was a history that she was connecting to.
So have you chosen another one? The next in the series?
No.
This one took 13 years to make.
Oh, but now you got it down pat.
We decided that, basically about 3 or 4 years into the project, about 3 years into the project, we realized that there's no way that we could do a whole series.
Sure.
Also, a couple years later, at least one person who was very important to us, who was part of that list that we worked on, who passed away, and we were very devastated. We didn't even think that we could finish the film. It was so sad. And also didn't have a lot of resources. So no, there's no series, and we have no intention to do anything apart. I think the film is out there now. I think when we started making this film, there was no feature film on Angela Davis. And when we find that out, we were quite struck by that. Here is this, in many ways, a national treasure. Someone who have essentially dedicated her life to better the lives of all of these people in this country. And we don't deem, and this is indirectly responding to your question about what does it mean to marginalize certain story and certain bodies, right? So what does it mean when we have these national treasures and we don't deem important enough to tell their story in a serious way, other than in a blaxploitation way? Because there have been stories about these women, right? It's just they show up in the form of Pam Grier and Foxy Brown. Right? So we began the film without a feature on Yuri, without a feature on Angela.
The book on Yuri had not come out.
The book on
None
Yuri
of
had
us-
not come out. Most people didn't even know about the connection between Yuri and Malcolm. Never mind the work that she has done for decades in both the Black and the Brown community. And essentially, the Asian American community, quite frankly, doesn't really know what to do with her, the history of Asian American community. So, you know,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why we do these things,
Definitely.
because those stories need to be told.
Yeah.
But we don't need to do this series, because since then, there have been many more young folks and older folks who have begun to, and the proliferation of text, I think is very important. There's a contribution that both scholarly and non-scholarly historical work about social movement, about communities of resistance, that have contributed to the popularization of these stories. So since this film was released, there are two more films about Angela Davis. Since we began this film, there's also another film about Yuri, and there are a number of other films. The film on Asata also came out after we started working on this film, right? So we think there are other folks that can do that series. We don't need to do it We're not that good.
Yeah, I have some questions actually about the actual production. I noticed that a lot of the footage is from 1996, 2008. Can you kind of describe the process between those years and what was going on, and how much footage did you ultimately come up with to kind of get into the feature that results?
You want me? We have more than a terabyte of data, probably over 100 hours worth of footage at least. That's the major stuff. We're not even talking about the people. As I said before, we have 2 series of interviews, not two series, conversations. Sorry. One of them was taking place in 1996, and the other was in 2007. And then we did a lot of follow-up conversation in 2008 and also 1997. 1997, of course, was the 25th anniversary of the Free Angela Davis campaign, so we took advantage of that, and we got a bunch of people in the same city, so we did that. There was a period of time where we didn't get much other than, we followed them around to different settings, so we didn't get B-roll. But that's part of that process. We did not intend to have the film taken so long, but we didn't have a lot of resources. We were really struck. We had no resources. We were really struck that in many circles, particularly with funding and foundations, that Angela is still very much blacklisted. So again, you know, I'm very bothered, obviously, by the fact that Assata Shakur is placed on the most wanted terrorist list, because I think it has serious significance for her, and for us as well. I just want to share one little story. We showed this film at Stony Brook a couple of years ago, and before we show up, there was someone who called the sponsoring organization and wanted to know if they needed him to call the police on their behalf.
And we thought it was a joke.
We thought it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. So this person wanted the police to be called because Angela might be there. And so they clarified the issue. No, the film on Angela Davis and Yuri Kochiyama will be there, but Angela herself will not be there. And why on earth would we need to call the police? And the person said, well, isn't she a terrorist? That was 2010, 2011. So part of the reason why it took us a long time was partly because we were shut out in a lot of places where we could have gotten resources to finish.
Just from I guess, in terms of the film structure, I think the effect of having it take so long actually, for me at least, deepened the meaning of the project. As you see them age, as you see the different experiences of the time, and it's really amazing. I thought the editing really captured that very well.
Well, when we were, the thing is, it reached a certain point when we were cutting the footage, trying to get funding for it. Before we did we had to say we really need to have this really major sit down for 2007, 2008. That we were cutting this and we realized that there were things that were happening that needed to be addressed, and it just took so long to make. And we were really getting very disheartened for a long time, but we stuck with it because we thought that the stories were too important. So we did that, but I do recall when we were cutting, I had started just taking, basically doing an assembly cut. And Q was working with me as well, but she said, okay, I need to do this in an assembly cut. And I just, okay, little old me, I said, I'll just take the stuff from 1997 that I think is important and stuff from the 2007-2008 conversation. And then what happened was is that when we started to put them together, I actually got really sad because Yuri had aged so much. And you could really see the effect of the strokes and things on her body. And it was really a big struggle to do that. And she'd had serious health issues, so part of the sort of impetus for us to really make sure we finish this film, we were worried about Yuri.
Yeah,
we were very worried.
Yeah.
And we wanted her to be able to see it and enjoy it. And yeah, the conversation format we thought was important because, and part of this came out of my experience working on Eyes on the Prize. So the camera system on Eyes on the Prize, and you're shooting film, so each magazine lasts about 10-11 minutes. If you change sound at the same time, then you're going to have at least, I can change a magazine very quickly, but when you change sound, you're going to take a little bit longer because it's the old reel, so it's not like putting a card in, so, and that's just a time to cool off the lights and just take a break as well. So in that about 5 or 10 minute break, the person who's being interviewed relaxes, the crew starts asking questions, and amazing conversations happen. And it's like, oh, we gotta ask that again when we roll again. And then it had none of the vibrancy, and it didn't have that sort of exchange and the depth, and that combined with something you want in terms of feminist methodologies.
Well, yeah, I mean, most of the time we learn from our mothers and our aunts and our grandmothers and our father and uncles and brothers too, but most of the time we hear it from conversation. We learn things from conversation, and we overhear things we're not supposed to hear, also from conversation. But a film just came out when we had decided to do this project, A Place of Rage. Some of you might have heard of it. It's a wonderful documentary about Toni Morrison, Alice Walker, Angela Davis, right? And June Jordan. And I mean, it was a beautiful film in many ways, but they were all in different locations. And it's really not until the end that you actually see them actually have a conversation, but it was so brief. And we were like, wow, what a shame. What would have this film looked like if they were actually having a conversation? Because I really think that you think that your conversation begins a way and ends, and you think you know the outcome, but in the course of the conversation, it actually changed, right? And so you end up talking about something because of digression, because you remember something, and all of a sudden you're onto a different subject. And we think that it has a lot of potential to learn about someone's life and their work in the community, because we remember community history are like that, right? You get jostled and you get pushed, and then you start remembering something. So that's part of the reason why we want to push the conversational format.
And we don't believe in voiceover. So a lot of productions we did one project using voiceover at the request of the organization. It was an NGO that does work, community radio all over the world. That's the last time we did anything with voiceover.
Yeah, it wasn't our voice. It was someone else's.
Someone else's voice.
And
they specifically requested that. But we just think that people and communities can speak for themselves. And the conversational format, I thought, helped bring that out.
Do you guys have any comments or questions about the film?
And we'll be shorter with our answers.
Yes, we saw it.
No. Yes, I just want to make sure we hear the voices.
I'm just very intrigued. This thing is great.
But we have questions for you.
Yeah.
So, what kind of, do any of you do sort of documentary work? Are you interested in film work? Are you interested in doing oral histories?
Yeah.
All of the above.
Okay.
Well, tell us what you're interested in.
Primarily documentary work and history. Right now I'm in gender studies and global studies and film writers. So,
What kind of project do you have in mind specifically?
Really, nothing right now. I'm just kind of just going to school and just, you know, just trying to learn as much as I can. And, because I just think like the film format is so, besides the internet and everything, it's just the best way for us to communicate and learn, especially our history. I never even heard of Yuri. I'm just so totally intrigued. So I can participate in that kind of tribute.
I think if you take the theme of this series that you're doing and really just sort of think about the kind of, there are just so many voices, there's so many stories that are out there, and you know, you have to sort of work with what you find interesting and passionate, but it's just you didn't even know about Yuri. So there's all these things out there, there's just this gold mine of these gems of people in the communities that you don't even know the magic that they do. Talk a little bit about that.
Well,
maybe
no,
then
I
we should
was,
talk about
I was gonna say, well, one of the questions you framed is what are the consequences when we silence certain voices or exclude certain kind of expertise or contribution from women? What happened is that we're totally deprived of certain expertise and certain experiences, and that's not very different from historical narratives. When you exclude, you know, a whole swath of community, what you get is a very impoverished history, is incomplete, right? We just finished a film on gentrification and displacement in Puerto Rico. And we tell, it's a very different film than this one. For one thing, we finished it in 4 years as opposed to 13 years or 14 years.
Still no budget,
But the film is told through this woman's lives, and again, it's not a biopic. We don't tell personal story per se. We dissect that people are existing. But the story is about this woman and her friends. They are senior citizens for the most part, and they struggle to maintain a home that's more than 100 years old as a cultural center, as a shared space, because the mother wanted to keep this house to share, right, as a shared space, not as a private
her dying
property.
wish.
That was her dying
Make
wish.
it available.
And what really intrigued us is that she identified herself as a cimarrona. And if you know Spanish, you know that in Spanish spaces, cimarrona is a runaway slave. So she identified with fugitive, right, practice, and want her children to make sure this space is a free space, like Black Free Town, okay?
This is a Puerto Rican woman who, you know, blue eyes, just blonde, you know,
Right.
just
Well, not the mother.
the mother,
but
more
the
Indian,
daughter.
but the daughter, her name is America.
Yes, her name is America. So the film is called America's Home.
And she, you know, if you look at her, you think white, but her mouth, everyone in her family identifies with, you know, Cimarron tradition and Black radical tradition.
Yeah,
Very
but so this is an
much so.
incredible story, right? It's just like the house. And you know, there are lots of stuff you can do. History, I think, is totally exciting. I'm like a closeted historian, even though I'm not a historian. I think it's wonderful. I think all the stuff, but begin with your own community, because I think there are stories there. Because what we encounter with this house is that there are 60, 70, the youngest person was in like her early 60s.
Yeah.
And the oldest, this incredible Cuban artist who's in her 90s, famous artist, and she's on a 12-feet ladder working on little detail on the ceiling because they can't afford to hire someone or hire.
Wow.
Yeah, and she also wanted to do stuff for it.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
wanted to, and she's an artist.
Yeah.
So you don't know what's being done right near UCLA or even on campus.
Mhm.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
you'd be surprised. Use your stuff.
yeah. And you don't need to have a lot, you can just record, I mean, you can just take still photographs and just record audio and do like a multimedia thing. I mean, it's just amazing.
Use your
what you get out of
smartphone.
folks. Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
Yes.
Yes.
I think we got one.
Oh, okay, thank you, fantastic. So we'll finish the conversation, we'll start in the hallway.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. Everybody.
Thank you.
Okay.
So how long have you been For those of you who don't know, they're both professors at Arizona State. How long have you been moonlighting as filmmakers, or which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Filmmaker first for you, yeah?
Filmmaker first for me.
Okay.
Yeah. for you,
Well,
it was
I've been
radio
teaching for a
first.
long time. You know, I've been teaching for
A long time.
Yeah.
How many years?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes
okay.
indeed. Not as young as you think I am. I actually between she and I, we actually have like we feel up like 7 different positions. We have invisible friends. We talk to them too. So I do almost all anything that has to do with sound and music. And Crystal does. She's responsible for the camera department. We like together. We co-direct, co-produce, co-edit.
Co-edit? Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we co-edit.
And it's because we didn't have any budget, so we
I-
had to learn.
Yeah,
And you just keep
we
saying
learn
that.
like on 6, 7 different platforms because we have to do it ourselves, and you don't know, you know, you can't
Yeah.
hire.
But at
people
the
to do it.
end, I saw this long list of financial sponsors, the
No,
Griffin family,
They were just family.
the Klein family.
But
and
yes, we got a lot of help. We got a lot
No
of
foundation support?
No.
Did you
Zero.
apply like to the?
Well, we
We
got a
applied.
post-production, we got a post-production residency, which was
If
held
it
in.
had not been for the Wexner Center for the
We would
Arts,
not have
we
finished.
probably would not have finished this film.
That's amazing. You know, this is the third panel of filmmakers we've had,
Mhm.
and that has been a common problem.
Yeah, because Zenabu was here, right?
Yeah.
Zenabu had to do.
And it seems to me that, I guess the question is it more, you mentioned topic with, you know, Angela Davis for that particular film, but CA has been saying for almost everything, we're poor, we're poor, we're poor. But that's a common thread from all the filmmakers.
Yeah.
So do you think it's because it's more of a gender, or is it more of a racial, combination of both, or is it more subject?
It's a combination of all of the things that you
Combination
mentioned,
of all
right?
the above.
Because, I mean, I think it has something to do with what Delina is strongly hinting at by her framing these series of questions, is that when you do exclude women of color, in particularly black women, from certain processes in certain institutions, you're essentially saying that it's not just that you're excluding female bodies and black bodies, but you're saying that these embodied experiences are not as important. So it's definitely linked to topic. Now, I'm not also saying that just because you're a black woman that you're going to make certain film that are socially edgy about the black experience. But I am saying that more often than not, some of these films would not have been made had there not been a Zenabu, right? Had there not been a Michelle Parker or Parkerson or what's her name?
Julie Dash.
Julie Dash. So, you know, it like I said, it isn't an essentialist biological thing, but on the other hand, because of the experience. And so because of that, when we walk into the foundation or the institution with our proposal or film festival, it's not, I want to make sure I include the festival circuit as well, because once you make them, it doesn't mean that it gets distributed or it gets screened.
Right.
All kind of stuff go off people's head, and they start thinking about all kind of things. And among those things is, are there going to be white people on screen that I care about? Or is there going to be young men between 18 to 25? I mean, quite frankly, you know, there's certain commercial motivation too. So it isn't, but I don't think that these films are only made by black women.
No.
I think they have been made by some incredible, like Charles Burnett, right?
Charles Burnett, fantastic.
Yeah. So I think we have to be careful about the biological essentialist stuff, but on the other hand, I don't think that these things are separate at all.
But I think it's also just certain types of stories. And the
Right.
question is there an audience for it? I mean, you all know Julie Dash. She's like, oh, there's no audience for this.
Right.
And there are people around the block, you know, word of mouth. That film made millions of dollars. And it wasn't, you know, I mean, I'm not
And
saying
they
that
always
that's
put them
the
in a small
harbinger of success, but that this film that they said there's not an audience for. This is just for public television.
But it still represents one of the best representation of black women in American film, right?
Right.
Absolutely.
And Delaney, correct me if I'm wrong. Was Zenabu, was she talking about their film down in San Diego? What What was the film she said was sold out?
That was her film.
Yeah, I think it was your film.
No, it was her own film.
No, it wasn't her
Wasn't
film. It was somebody else's film, and she has the San Diego Film Society,
Yeah.
and it's her husband, and a friend, and they brought in the film. I think she said Mountain Stick Lane. Maybe not.
No.
But anyway, they sold out every showing, and they had to do it within 10 days. And they did kind of guerrilla marketing for that and new ways. One of the things that I know Darnell always asks when he's here is, how does new media fit in with your marketing of your films?
Well, frankly, we were just so exhausted from doing this. I think that definitely word of mouth worked really well. Definitely, I mean, one of the ways that I know, for example, the film, the curator from the Japanese American National Museum invited us to screen the film. He found out about it through a blog, Angry Asian Man. You know, so things like that, people, and we're screening a film someplace. We were screening a film in New York, and we hadn't told a friend of ours that we were there. We were just traveling with the film. We forgot about it. And then we get a text in the screen. I heard your film was there. It's like, how did you hear? Somebody in the audience texted me. Why didn't you tell me? So it's like, it's this great film here. Go over it. So there's that's fantastic, and it definitely opened up a tremendous number of doors. If you look at Kickstarter and Indiegogo, all these things. But the amount of work that you have to do to make those films get seen is still huge, because there's so much garbage out there. So it's a challenge in that way. Yes.
You mentioned finding the right audience. How do you make it interesting? I mean, the story is there. I mean, do you have to be so creative to where it stands out? Or like, how do you really make it pop? I'm struggling right now. I have a great story, and he's very interesting with the subject, but it's still not interesting. It's not current. It's a very old story. So how do you bring current into something so old?
I don't know if I can answer that question for you, but it depends on what your goals are. I mean, it depends on how you define success. And a very good friend of mine said, you can put your heart and soul into a film. It takes years to make these films. Years and years and years. Whether it's documentary film, narrative film, experimental film, it takes a long time. I mean, not everybody just takes a little, Canon camera and then loads it up. There's a lot of work that goes into these things. But that it depends on how you define success. Is it successful that if you finish it? Is it successful if it gets into a film festival? Is it successful if it gets distribution? Is it successful if there's an article written about it? Is it successful if it makes you $1 million? I mean, you have to define success. So, I mean, I'll give you one example, okay? And it's an odd example. My first feature film called Del Otro Lado, okay? It's a Spanish, it's a gay male Spanish film. Shot in Mexico City. In Spanish, okay? Directed by a black lesbian, okay? So here we are. Very surprising looks from the audience when they have C.A. Griffith come up and it was not who they thought it was going to be, okay? Yeah. But, it screened at the, at Outfest, okay? And and Frameline, and I was invited to this special director's tea, it's sort of who they think of the up-and-coming, queer directors. And one of the people that was there that was sort of afterwards was Bill Cundiff, who you guys all know from Chicago and all that other stuff. But at the time, he was known for doing Candyman and all these horrible.
Wait a minute, Candyman, the horror movie with Tony Todd?
Yes.
And you're calling that horrible?
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
I have to go.
This is I agree. I'm not taking it. So this is just
But it was written by a gay man, by the way, Clive Barker.
Okay. But he's known for doing horror, okay? And Candyman was probably the biggest one that he had done. That's not where his heart and soul was. He did not define making all that money and getting all the success and all these accolades in that genre as the thing he wanted to do. What he wanted to do was this little film called Gods and Monsters.
Oh, with Ian
That's right. Okay. So he talked about how he showed this film. And his agent and everyone said, if this is the kind of crap you want to do, find somebody else. Okay, so And he didn't know. I mean, this is about, James Whale, this gay director who does horror films, and then this gardener. It's not popular, it's not hip, it's not anything. It's something that he was excited about. This is my heart and soul, and this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna make it happen. And then of course it blew up. And then from that, then he does this and does that, and now he's, what,
Yeah, it just, I mean,
the
I
vampire
think that a
chronicle
lot of
things,
time, because we are in close proximity to Hollywood.
Yes.
Yeah.
We allow it to dictate the standard of what excellence is, or what success is.
Mhm.
And I think that, even if we go to, say, an African film
Which was
festival,
a huge hit of our film there.
which
I
you
love
will
to
see a
Yeah.
range of work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm not just saying this
Well,
because
no,
you're here, but I
I-
think
yes.
that's what makes a festival
Because I'm so
good.
close to it,
Yeah.
that it's just like, oh, these are just films, right? And I don't, until I step back and hear people talk about it,
Right.
Mhm.
it's hard for me sometimes to recognize the impact that we have. But, I know it, intellectually I know it. But otherwise, I deal with all these filmmakers and they're passionate about their first film. And and it's just so, I just think it's so cute. They come in the office,
Mhm.
you're Mickey? Because I've been emailing them for months,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Hi. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But they are but especially because we have so many where it's their first film. It might be a short film, it might be a feature, but they are just so passionate. So if you have a film that you've made, submit it.
Mhm.
I mean, is it not made yet?
Oh, no, I do have a 15-minute trailer.
Well,
You know,
that's a lot more than most people have.
You said 15-minute trailer?
Trailer or 15?
I have a 45-minute cut,
Okay.
Okay.
but the 15-minute is like way easier just to kind of get an idea. It was just to get a start.
Well, what
Okay,
you
but
want to
the
do.
trailer
But-
answer that, you
Yeah,
can't have a
what you
trailer
want
that's
to do
15 minutes.
is we will look at works in progress. I mean, I'm not even involved in the selection stuff, but our application stuff will come out in July for early bird, cheaper than just turn it in. You turn it and you say it's a work in progress, and the final one is going to be 45 minutes or an hour or whatever it's going to be, and then the screening committee will look at it, and we have we've shown films that were 3 minutes long and 3 hours long.
Exactly.
I did submit that.
They didn't.
But
Well-
Steph, you have to keep trying.
Yeah,
Oh,
you have to get
absolutely.
trying.
And you
Yeah,
have to try
But in
different
terms
places.
of the audience, I mean, one of the things is
We
you just
go
have to
for
decide
every
Yeah.
Right.
what audience you want, like who you want to tell that story. And usually, I think that the most compelling story that sort of get to me, and this both include books and so text and visual stories, is that there's something very compelling that they have to tell. And if they don't tell it, no one else will. It doesn't mean it has to be topical, it doesn't mean it has to be unique, it doesn't mean anything
Doesn't have to be
actually.
hip.
Yeah, at this point, it's more, I have to get it done, like you said, for Gary. My subject is 96 years old.
Tell that story.
And
Yeah.
it's so on me,
Yeah.
I have no
Tell that
choice.
story.
Mhm.
So, I'm listening and trying to take notes.
But is this the one that you said you submitted?
Mhm.
Okay. Because right now we're a little bit of a hiatus.
Okay.
You should email and see if the people who do the selection can give you comments
Exactly.
on why, yeah.
And Mickey, give her a card so she can follow with you
Yeah.
after this.
Yeah.
And Stephanie, the other thing you should do, you really should do, maybe you just need a little bit of time just a little bit, to pull back from it and give yourself more of a fresh approach. Because to hear you as a filmmaker say, oh yeah, it's not really exciting, I don't know how to, there are ways. Just pull yourself away from it a little bit, or have a screening of what you have. Thanks for coming out. Have a screening of what you have with some of your family and friends, and let them give you feedback as well. Because that would be helpful also. Oh, you took that, we were hoping.
No,
I
sorry.
wasn't gonna tell you.
And also here on the librarian.
And you got a few minutes, you don't have to go to the flagpole.
Okay. So I think
I've
we
had
should.
conversations with Lou too, don't worry. We understand.
Did you have any other questions for us?
I don't have
Don't
any other
take it
questions, I just wanted to make sure we had a
personally.
good conversation.
Okay.
And I think, does anyone else have any other questions or comments?
Oh, by the way, Delana,
Yes,
Dr. Hunt said purchase the film.
he said purchase the film?
This is
My
when they make
boss told me.
movies.
Yeah.
When they make
Oh,
movies,
when they make movies.
they take care of everything.
Okay.
And we have a unique, and this is one of the reasons why we tell people to go through and make movies. We have a kind of a unique agreement that we have, so we actually share the proceeds with Angela Yuri and some social justice organizations.
They make time.
Well, Angela doesn't get any of the
So I'll make
proceeds. We
clear
don't
that.
get any of the proceeds. It goes to.
It goes in their
to-
names.
Yeah,
In
it
their
goes in
names.
their
Somewhere
name.
else.
and it's
So
a
it goes right back into
Yeah.
the community.
Yeah.
So it goes right back to the
So
community.
please purchase.
Angela, she's making.
No. It goes in the name.